Hi, I'm Dr. Sedna Bokiria, and this is Leader Voices, a show about leaders and their infinite ability to change the world. Each episode in Leader Voices, we dig into stories and sparks from for-purpose leaders, coaches, comedians, luminaries, and everyday heroes from around the globe. Tales of impact and failing forward, of aspirations and innovations, and the infinite and inspiring ways that social purpose leaders lead and make the world a better place. Join us today as we introduce a new guest. Today's guest on Leader Voices is extremely special. He's living the kind of story that most people only dream about or are too afraid to even try. Quintin Bynum started in Boston with just a motorcycle and a bold idea, ride across the country and then keep going. He crossed the US, shipped his motorcycle to South America, and rode through some of the most breathtaking and dangerous places on the planet. Think mountains, jungles, deserts, war zones, and wheelies the whole way through. Then he shipped his bike again, this time to South Africa, and rode across the continent. Now, 2 years into his journey, Quintin is headed to Europe for Red Bull Romania, which is one of the most intense and elite motorcycle races in the world. He's not just racing for the thrill. Along the way, he's working with nonprofits, supporting local communities, and becoming a living symbol of freedom, grit, and what it means to write your own story, 1 mile at a time, on 2 wheels, sometimes one if I know him well enough. It is such a pleasure to have him on Leader Voices today, and I'm so excited just to learn about what drove you to do this, what some of your experiences have been all the way through. So with that, welcome to Leader Voices, and thank you so much for taking the time to connect.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the show. Truly appreciate it. Yeah, so I mean, my journey is it started off at a very young age. Actually, it started off when I was in second grade. I'm the only person in my family that has this kind of vision or has ever acted on any kind of this vision of this magnitude, as far as traveling around the world. Also, the only one in my family who rides motorcycles as well. So,
What made you, like, is it an adventure thing? Is it a freedom?
yeah, I mean the motorcycle part. That's a whole nother section in itself, and then you have the travel part. The end of the day, all in all, decided to bring them both together. Long story short, the whole idea of travel and adventure came from when I was in second grade. My family and we grew up kind of like a middle class ish, and then my mom wanted to send me to a school that got better funding and better education. So she sent me into a school that was very far away in the suburbs, and every Friday we had an assembly, kind of like people would come in and would present. Maybe like they would bring in an animal, like a zoo would come in and they would bring an animal for the kids and things like that. One day, there was this one guy that came in and he was talking to everyone about what he had just done. And he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. That was his thing. And he had like the projector there and everything, and all the kids are like, oh, they're like sitting on the gym floor, and they're just looking up at the screen, and he's clicking through the screen, and he's telling everyone what he's done, and he has all these really cool photos of him going through the snow and hiking Kilimanjaro, and that stuck with me. And I said to myself, I was like, you know what? One of these days, I'm going to climb Kilimanjaro. I'm going to go and I'm going to hike Kilimanjaro, because I was so jaw dropped by that. Fast forward to 2014, I got the opportunity to finally climb and hike Kilimanjaro. It was breathtaking. It changed my life. From there, that's where the travel sparked, and I just wanted more with travel. As far as the motorcycles go, I've always been into the bikes. I've had my first motorcycle was a 1984 RM 125 dirt bike, and then from there, it was just a snow cone effect, and I just kept getting more and more and more into bikes. And then eventually, I said to myself, like, well, I love motorcycles and I love travel. why can't I combine them together?
Right.
Why can't I figure out a way to put them together and explore the world? And here I am.
And you just did it. So
Yeah.
you started in Boston, New York. So you're an East Coast native, and then you
Yeah.
rode throughout the United States, just East to West Coast, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
How long?
Yeah. So that took just getting across the United States was it took a couple weeks or a few weeks because I was actually taking my time a little bit. And I also had to go south because I started in March, so obviously it was still cold going across the west coast in the middle of the United States. So I had to go from Boston, New York, all the way down to Atlanta and cut across and go to like New Orleans. And then but along the way I was just meeting people and I was meeting up with friends that I had scattered out throughout the United States. So till I got to LA, that was my first time on the west coast and it was pretty cool. So
Yeah, and just rolled through Arizona on the way.
yeah. Yeah.
I was. I'm thinking like it wasn't summer. It wasn't like 150 degrees, right?
No, because it might have been still maybe end of March or maybe mid March.
It was nice. Yeah. So you got.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great because it boils. But what I was going to say is, how do you prepare for something like that physically? Because I know, like, from the very limited experience that I have riding, my shoulders would hurt from like the gear. You know what I mean? Like shifting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it painful? Like that sounds like torture to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, bike choice does make a difference. I think I gave up on the sport bikes a long time ago. I did a
So
ride
no
from
R1s? Wait, no
Yeah,
R6?
no R1s, no R6s. Nah, man. No, I think I did a ride. I had the last R1 that I had. I did a ride from Boston to New Jersey, and I felt so broken. My back was hurting me. Everything was hurting me. I was like, never again. And then that's when I decided to get an adventure motorcycle, one that I could travel and be comfortable on for me, and one that can also go off road. It can go in the dirt. It can climb mountains. It can go through swamps. You can do all kinds of things with it. So that's when I really said to myself, like, I think it's time for me to give up the sport bikes.
That's so cool. So you don't really have to do anything to train for going across the world. I would think you would need to like do something to prepare, or not just physically,
Yeah,
also mentally.
I think it's more of mentally preparing. And what I mean by mentally preparing is understanding what you're possibly going to be faced with. And the best way to do that is to just do research. And when you do research, just watch videos, YouTube videos, watch Instagram videos of people that are doing it.
Mhm.
And for me, what I did preparing wise, I planned this for 4 years. So every month I took a country and I had a little black notebook and I researched the country for that entire month. Say 1 month was for Mexico. That entire month would be all about Mexico, or where to eat food, where to stay for accommodations, what's this like crossing the border. Do I need a visa? Do I need documents for the bike? Do I need so? And I just created a list of a lot of different stuff that I needed. And then the next month, I would go on to like Belize or Guatemala and then just start writing that stuff down. I just always kept myself engaged in travel, motorcycle travel, and what are people doing, and staying up to with the current events around the world also really helps because stuff changes. The world changes pretty quickly.
Sure. I mean, I have so many things that are just spinning through my head in terms of the life. So, from a sociological perspective, just the culture of motorcycle life, like I remember vaguely. So, the audience doesn't know this, but Quintin actually taught me how to ride a bike. And at that point in time, I had a Gixxer 600. And I think for like 2 weeks, I had a Honda CBR 1000. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is huge. I don't think it's going to work out. I'll probably die. And that's when I got the Gixxer. And no, even before that, I actually had it was a Ninja.
Yeah, the Ninja. Yeah, it was like a Ninja 250. Yeah,
Yeah, I had a Ninja 250,
yeah.
and then I bought a Ninja 500 because the 250 was actually harder to ride because you have to keep on
The
switching
shifting.
gears. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why would the lower CC bike be harder to ride? Which you told me, like, hey, you probably want a 500 or something. So then I
Yeah.
remember that. But the point is, like, you've seen me drop my bike one too many times. So embarrassing. Okay. But just the culture of it, I remember being part of a community and there were rides for people who had been injured, people who
Mhm,
died. It's dangerous.
mhm.
I'm really grateful now as a mother that I survived. And I remember some of the horror stories of like someone being on the back of your friend's bike and
Yeah.
falling off, and I think,
Yeah.
oh my God, like how did that happen? And then it was like relentless riders. So
Yeah.
I'm dragging on and going on a rampage here. But my point is, tell me about motorcycle communities, motorcycle culture, and then more specifically, tell me about what it means to be a one percenter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the motorcycle community is always we always come together. We always help each other, especially in the MC community. In the MC community, it's like a big family, and we
What's
do a lot
MC?
of MC means motorcycle club.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, so when you have like your leather vest, and you have like the patches on the vest, and a lot of
Right.
times you'll see the MC on it and stuff like that. But it's all a big community. Everyone knows each other. Everyone, helps each other out. They throw charity events. They throw parties. So
Sure.
it's all a big community of brotherhood and sisterhood, of course.
Yeah, don't forget the Diamond Girls.
Yeah, yeah. But that community. I mean, honestly, that was a group of friends, or is a group of friends that will always be with me, even though I'm not there anymore. But they still support my travels. They still support me being around the world and things like that. Yeah, and it's all just one big family. And as far as one percenters go, I mean, one percenters are they are definitely people you don't want to mess with.
So
Usually
it's
those
like
are
Hells Angels. What are the groups?
yeah, you have like the Hells Angels, the Mongols, the Pistons. You have all those outlaw clubs and things like that. So, but that's a whole nother sector of writing. Like if you've watched Sons of Anarchy, it's almost kind of like that area. I mean, they do a lot of good stuff too. So it's
Sure.
not like they do a ton of bad stuff or anything like that. It's just it's just a whole nother sector of motorcycle clubs.
I remember
And
so when I was in college, I borrowed like a friend's car and I was such an idiot. I didn't realize that the gas was empty. So I
yeah,
ended up being like stranded on the side of the highway. I think it was Route 9 in Connecticut. And this
oh
guy comes up, Hell's Angel, vest, everything on his
yeah, yeah.
motorcycle to help me. And I remember thinking like this guy's going to kill me or he's going to help me. And of course I got on the back of his bike and he took me to a gas station, helped
Yeah,
me, get the gas,
yeah,
go back to the car. And you're
yeah.
absolutely right. Like you can meet, I grew up in like Hell's Angel town
Mm,
and they're like the nicest people in the world. So when I met you and you told me a little bit about how strict the rules are, like, you can't just go around rocking a vest and you can't just, violate
right.
a lot of the rules within this community. So I completely agree with you. You'll meet some of the nicest people in the world who are, bikers
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
and
And
then also killers.
yeah. Yeah, there's that part, there's that part. I mean, they definitely have a little bit of a history, but at the same time, again, it's I think at the end of the day, we're all connected by two wheels. Not only have I experienced that in the US, but I've also experienced that around the world as well. As you travel around the world, as you meet people in different countries that are on two wheels, you definitely get the same kind of love. If I was stranded in the middle of, you know, Colombia somewhere, and a guy on a another bike, adventure bike, or it doesn't even have to be an adventure bike. It could just be a Harley or a sport bike, and they just see me on the side of the road turning wrenches. They're gonna stop. They're gonna be like, you okay? You good?" Like, so, so that's the community that's international. It's worldwide. So
Yeah, it's incredible. It reminds me of when you saved my ass. So I was riding from Connecticut to Boston, which is about an hour and a half, and it was downpouring and it was really scary. And I remember I pulled over and I ended up taking an exit off 95 and it was Noose Neck Road. And I'm like, who am I going to call that can like come here and take my bike? And you
yeah,
and I'm like, well, we ended up towing it or something, but it was such a nightmare. But it's that same kind of camaraderie. And it actually makes me realize that the guy who pulled over probably was in a situation understanding how difficult it is when you are kind of on the road
yeah.
alone. So internationally, having that camaraderie of the same community and that same kind of support and love, that must be interesting. Does it differ from country to country? Tell me a little bit about all the different cultures.
To be honest with you, I mean, the motorcycle community around the world is almost it's almost kind of the same. I mean, everyone understands each other. We're all connected by two wheels, and we all want to help. We all want to go on rides. Some of us ride dirt. Some of us ride pavement. Some of us, ride Harleys. Some of us ride. So everyone rides something different, but at the same time, again, that circle of brotherhood and sisterhood that comes together on bikes is definitely a huge thing. And then you meet like the travelers. That's another community. The people who travel from like they do from Alaska to Ushuaia to the tip of Argentina. So that community is a whole nother like pocket in itself as well, and like that community is really amazing, and meeting people who are very like-minded and who are able to get up and go and get out of their house and go take a long trip down, from Alaska to Ushuaia, in 6 months and things like that. So there's a really cool hostel. It's kind of like a motorcycle hub in Colombia, and it's called Donkey Sunrise. And there, I met so many like-minded motorcycle travelers. The owner there, Tim, he had an idea of actually having this one particular hub where people can come in and meet up, and we talk about our travels. We talk about what's going on at different borders. We heard someone got robbed in this place, like, or we heard someone went down in this place and crashed their bike, and we got to go help them, or you know um where did you get these tires from, because tires might be difficult to get in a certain part of the world. So it's definitely, it opened my eyes in regards to the amount of travelers that come through, especially South America, that you can meet. Definitely.
So you went from US, South America to South Africa. And right
Mhm.
now, where are you again?
Currently, I'm in Nigeria.
Tell
Yeah.
me specifically about every place. Like what shocked you the most? What's been the most amazing kind of part?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, world travel it's very, sometimes it can be very difficult to put, especially if you've been to many countries. As far as like trying to pinpoint like my favorite country, I mean, I've kind of narrowed down out of 55 countries that I've been to, I would say 25 or 23 have been by motorcycle. Um, the rest have been more backpacking. That's in 2017. I just kind of packed a bag and just left. And for like a year and a half, it's like you take a little bit from each place you visit. For instance, South America. So South America, the mountains are absolutely gorgeous. They're absolutely stunning, and there's like snow-capped mountains, and you're riding way up in the mountains, and you're just right next to them, and it's just breathtaking, and you're so high up. And then you go to like, Bolivia, you go to Chile, you go to Peru, and all those places are just like, they have something unique about them. And then you go to like Colombia, and Colombia is like, it's very vibrant. It's like, it's very, like everyone's just happy, and it's just like, it's the same thing like Brazil. Brazil has like a very vibrant vibe But Colombia also has the mountains, it has the jungles, it has the coast, it has, and the same thing with Ecuador. Ecuador is very small, so you can get from the coast to the mountains to the jungle in like 8 hours. You can just do all of them in one day if you wanted to. And then you go to Africa, and then the landscape of Africa is absolutely mind blowing. It's like, if you want to see the wildlife, the elephants, the giraffes, the zebras, lions. I mean, when you see the wildlife in Africa, it's incredible. And then as you start to go up the west coast of Africa, it becomes more of you know, things start to change when you go up the west coast of Africa. That's the key to it. I mean, that's when people say, "This is Africa."
What does that mean? Tell me more.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that means, when things happen and it leaves you kind of like scratching your head, you're like, huh, why is this happening right now? And you're just like, well, this is Africa, man. This is it.
What's the
Uh,
craziest thing that happened? Like, are there safety issues?
no, it's not necessarily safety issues. It's more like, okay, so for instance, growing up in the Western world, we value time, right? Time is a thing where you're just like it's money, it's so important to us, we really cherish it. Here, no, not at all. Nope, nope,
People are
nope,
just
no.
careless.
They're just like, come back tomorrow. No. It's just like, and you just like, you told me to come in today at 9 o'clock. Yeah, well, he's not here. You can come back at 12. That's fine. But if not, you just come back tomorrow. Yeah, that's just how it is, man. And just like, it can be so frustrating and you could really lose your patience. I mean, South America is kind of the same as well, but it's not as bad as here, I would say. Here it's like, people kind of make up rules as they go along at times, and you're just like, it really tests your patience. That's the thing about travel, it really tests your patience.
Sure,
Yes.
sure. So you're doing the Red Bull race in Romania?
Yeah, so it's called the Red Bull Romaniacs, and this is the toughest enduro race in the world. I would say many people start, many people don't finish. So it's broken down into classes. So there's like the gold, the bronze, the silver, there's the atom, and then there's the adventure level. So I joined the adventure class. There's adventure expert, and then there's adventure light. I joined the adventure expert. Yeah, and I'm just preparing for it mentally. It's definitely one of those races that's just kind of like a once in a lifetime race because it's huge. People from all over the world compete in it, and it's also one of those races that really tests your mind, your resilience, it tests you in so many different ways, mentally, physically. I mean, the race is 5 days, and you have to get up and be ready to go every day. And if you're not, then you're not going to last. And a lot of people don't last. Yeah, but we put ourselves through it.
Incredible. So what's your, like signature riding style? Like we used to talk about how if a 600 and a 1000 were racing, the 600 will get it on the jump, but the 1000 will crush it. How are you racing? What kind of bikes are in this race in
Yeah.
5 days?
So yeah, so the race is so an enduro race. I don't know if you're familiar with enduro racing. Enduro race is pretty much riding through the woods, essentially. So it's riding through the woods of Romania. It's all different size bikes, but mainly it's enduro bikes, which are generally 250s and 300s and 400s, but they're like dirt bikes, single cylinder dirt bikes. The bike that I'm racing is going to be my two-cylinder bike. So it's a bigger bike. It's a 700. That's why it's called the adventure class. And, you know, I would never be able to bring my adventure bike on the route that the two stroke and the single cylinder bikes go on because that route is extremely difficult. It's like you're climbing up rock faces that are going straight up in the air almost. It's like it's almost impossible. That's how they make it, especially the gold class. The adventure class is a little bit less hectic. So I believe this is actually the first year that they put an adventure class in. So it definitely won't be as strenuous as the enduro class, which I don't mind. But as far as my riding style goes, I probably consider myself a probably much more aggressive rider, and I've always kind of been an aggressive rider. That's just been my riding style. You can see it in the way my bikes look sometimes. You're just like, why is your bike broken? Yeah, I just drove it off a cliff. Just yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think this race, really means a lot to me. I've been preparing for it, and also, I'm not too sure if there's anyone else who's ridden around the world and has competed in this race with the same bike. I'm pretty sure I might be the first one. Don't quote me on that. I've been researching and trying to find someone who's done it, but I don't think anyone else has done this. So
It's so cool. So when I think about quote unquote normal life in the United States, I don't know, 9 to 5, going to an office, maybe doing Zooms from home. What can you tell our listeners about how different your life is compared to, your average American?
yeah, that's a good one. I would say the biggest thing is your friends and family back in the States. In a way, you become a little bit of an alien to that society. When I go back home, I mean, my friends now, they're older, and they have families and stuff. So their conversations are like, what color are we painting the porch today? Like it's just those are the conversations that they're having amongst each other. So then I'm like, well, like, I don't know, like, I just went over this mountain in Peru. Like, I just got malaria in Congo. Those are like my conversations. You do, like, there is a little bit of a reverse culture shock because you come back and you realize that a lot of people back home have not experienced the things that you've experienced. They haven't seen everything. Everything is via news and via media. And the problem with that is it builds such a misconception of what it is like in the world. And I can tell you right now that just about everything that we've watched in the media and that we've learned about the world and learned about particular countries is false,
Hmm.
is absolutely false. Yes, there are some situations in certain parts of the world, certain regions of the world, but the way that the media portrays a lot of the world, it instills fear in, say, Americans and makes them not want to travel. The amount of countries that I've been to where people are like, don't go there because it's dangerous. And it's just like, well, have you ever been to this country?
Right.
Have you ever been any, like, the amount of people that have told me not to go to Mexico. And I'm like, I, Mexico is like my top six most favorite country now. Like, it's amazing. I spent 2 months there traveling the entire country of Mexico, and it's like it's absolutely amazing. And the Mexican people are amazing. So you find yourself hanging out with a couple guys and and their family, and you're drinking mezcal from the backyard. It's really it's really cool. So I think that we tend to put this block in our mind about what it's like to be around the world, and we want to always be safe. When we do travel, we tend to go to a resort, and there's nothing wrong with that. You take the all inclusive, you don't even leave the resorts, but you were in Panama, but you never saw any of Panama, you
Sure.
know, and it's just it's one of those things where you just got to get out and explore a little bit, and it's okay to get out and travel. Like I think my thing is I try to get out and travel as much as possible because I have the opportunity. Not everyone has the opportunity, and that's another thing that you have to really take into consideration is like whether or not someone has the opportunity to travel. And if you do, which I feel like a lot of Americans do, I'm not going to say most Americans, but a lot of Americans do have the opportunity to travel. I think they should take that opportunity and get out and explore because you really learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about the cultures around the world, and you realize like what you've been told sometimes is not really true. So,
Hmm. A lot of research shows that when you spend 20 to 30 minutes outside in nature, your brainwaves change and your stress levels go down, and just being part
mhm,
of the world in that way, being outside, just going for a
yeah,
like simple,
yeah,
non-dangerous, non-motorcycle being in the
yeah,
the world changes your brain waves. And so I
hmm
wonder, when you're on the road for hours and you're, riding by mountains and different types of landscapes, do you
hmm
feel like your brain has changed?
hmm yes, absolutely, 100%. And it's not only when I'm riding to the mountains; it's when I'm camping as well,
Mm,
because I camp a lot, and the amount of mornings that I've woken up. And what I purposely do is I set up my tent so that the sun, when it comes up, I'm gonna be able to open the door of my tent, and the sun's just gonna be right there. And I
mm.
usually put my bike in the middle, but like off to the side, so like the bike is there, and then I can just open the door of the tent and just, you know, um,
Living the
uh,
dream.
yeah,
Love
exactly.
it. It's very
But
inspiring,
yeah.
honestly. It
And
is.
that honestly, that's that realm that you go into, and you just like, and you get up, you get out of your tent, and you just stretch your arms out, and you just like take a deep breath, and you're just kind of like, okay, like everything's gonna be all right. We just,
Right.
you have this, it turns your brain into this positive mindset of just being in nature, like you said, and it's absolutely, absolutely amazing and mind blowing.
That's incredible. Yeah, the research shows that it increases activity in your prefrontal cortex, which you know that I'm obsessed
Mm,
with studying in terms of
yeah.
what are the things that make people smarter. And it's, science shows that what you're doing multiplies your intelligence and your connection to
Yeah,
the universe and the world. So then the flip
yeah.
side to that would be, do you find it more challenging to relate to people, perhaps when you come home, or connect with people, because your experience, as you pointed out, is so vastly different? Some
Mhm.
people are talking about, hey, I don't know what color I should get on my walls, or I'm thinking about buying a new dining room table,
Yeah,
and you're like on a whole nother realm.
yeah. You definitely feel like, okay, I'm not a part of this conversation. And that's a lot of my friends, my boys, and back home, and we eventually come to an area where we are all relating, but there's definitely pockets where I'm just like, huh, all right. And sometimes people make certain comments, they make comments about travel, and they're just like, oh, the cartels in Mexico, or the cartels are bad in Mexico, or like, or they'll say like, yeah, watch out for the FARC in Colombia. And I've come across both of them, and like they've actually been quite cool to me. So,
Of course they were.
you know what I mean? Like and I always try to tell them, like, listen, if you're not in that stuff, then you're not gonna be affected by it. Like, yeah, it's there, it exists, but I mean, there's also the mafia and the mob here in the United States, and there's all kinds of people all over the world. So definitely trying to get back and relate, and trying to connect and relating with people. They have so many questions. They ask me a lot of questions about, like, like, what is it like? What is it dangerous and things like that. But again, it's just all about you going out and exploring. You have to step out of your comfort zone. There's nothing better than stepping out of your comfort zone. I mean, travel in general by yourself will make you step out of your comfort zone so much. Like whenever something goes wrong, and say if you're like an introvert and you don't like talking to people, but you're on your bike and something goes wrong, now you're forced to talk to people that you have no idea who they are, and they speak a different language. So, so it forces you to have to say, all right, something needs to happen now, because if I don't do this, I don't survive. I need to figure this out. I need food. Where is there a place to eat? I've been walking for 20 minutes now. I can't find a place. That makes you have to stop and ask a local, like, where can I get food? So it just forces you to step out of your comfort zone so much that I think I just believe that travel is just it's good for you.
I wonder if what happens, research shows that when you're around mountains and vast landscapes and you're part of nature, the parts of your brain that are more egocentric tend to get smaller,
Mhm,
and you tend to find a larger purpose in the world. You have more humility, more humbleness,
mhm,
more gratitude and appreciation. And so
mhm,
perhaps what it is that people, when they're traveling, they're egocentric, so they assume that all these different groups are going to hurt them or target them because their ego is a little bit more inflated just naturally.
mhm,
Whereas
mhm,
what you're saying is, look, I'm kind of a small fish in the vast majority of the universe, and they're
mhm.
really not going to mess with me because I don't really
Right.
have much for them to mess with. Like, what,
Right.
so it's a totally different perspective.
Yes, yes. You learn really quickly that people around the world are extremely friendly. You learn that very, very quickly, and no one's here to. Yes, there are bad apples around the world. There's bad apples in your backyard. So, but at the end of the day, people are going to be friendly. People want to help, especially if they see you as a tourist. They see you as like, oh, this person's visiting my country, and this person needs help. It's like when people go to the United States, and I think Americans are very, very friendly as well. I mean, if you get someone who comes to the U.S. and they're looking lost, if being in New York and they're like looking around. I mean, New York is probably not the best example,
I
because
was going to say New York.
there's a
That's where
lot
you're going to go with
there's a
that.
lot of mean people in New York.
I know.
But there are also a lot of nice people in New York. Like people will stop and help someone who needs help if So, you know, I mean, my point is that yes, there are very, very friendly people around the world, and they're always willing to help. I think at times, I've been in certain situations where I needed help, and people have helped me. They've helped me, and if it wasn't for them, I might not have gotten out of the situation. I just got into a situation where I was in Nigeria and I was in the jungle, and I took this road that I wasn't supposed to go on. Well, I was warned about. I went anyways, but my bike was really big and it's heavy, and it's like a very small single track. It's pretty much what the Red Bull Romaniacs will be like for some of the riders. But yeah, I went up this hill. It was like a rock face, and there was like shells. So it was like really slippery. There was also red clay on there, and I hit the ground pretty hard. I was riding up it, thinking that I was doing very well, and then all of a sudden I lost control of the bike and I hit the ground really hard. At that point, I couldn't lift my bike because number one, I was exhausted. Number two, my bike is fully loaded. It's got luggage on there, and it was just really heavy. Generally, I can lift my bike when it's laying down on flat ground, but it was an incline that was really steep. I was losing my footing, and I had to wait. I had to wait for someone to come and help me, and that wasn't the only time. Even before that, I had crashed my bike, and my leg got caught in between the bike and the ground, so I couldn't lift the bike off of me. So I sat there and I had to wait for someone to actually help me lift the bike off of my leg. And these are the things that this is what I mean. This is like people. There's always going to be people that are there to help. They're going to be there to help you, and they'll put a smile on their face. You take a picture with them and they're like, and then it just because they're so happy to see you. They see your license plate and they see my license plate. It says New York on it, and they're like, wow. They're just mind blown. So they've never even seen this license plate before. They know New York. They've probably seen it on TV at some point, but they're just kind of like, this person's from New York, like what, or lives
How the
in
hell
United
did he
States,
get
what?
here? That's what they're thinking. How the hell did he get here?
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing. It's so inspiring. Give the listeners some advice on stepping out of their comfort zones, maybe having a little bit more faith in the cartel. I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny. If you go to Mexico, they'll tell you you're more likely to be safer. You'll be safer in a cartel town than a non-cartel town because cartel does not like to mess with tourists. And if it's a cartel town, everyone else knows that the cartel doesn't want you to mess with tourists, so they're not going to mess with tourists. But if you're in a non-cartel town, that's when they'll mess with you. So just a little tip.
For thought for everyone.
As far as stepping out of your comfort zone, it's again, stepping out of your comfort zone is obviously easier said than done. But if you don't do it, you won't grow. You won't know who you are as a person. I have learned over the years by constantly taking risks and stepping out of my comfort zone. I mean, I've taken so many risks in my life, it's not even funny. It has molded me into who I am today. And I can tell you right now, if I didn't go through some of the things that I've gone through, if I didn't say, all right, I'm going to do this, all right, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone. Okay, I'm going to, you know, study this because I need to study this because I need to get to where I want to be. And that's stepping out of your comfort zone as well. I mean, if there's some, say if there's a goal you need to reach and you need to go this way, and you don't want to go this way, but if you have to go this way to get up here, that's stepping out of your comfort zone. And if you don't do stuff like that, then you will not grow. You'll stay in the same zone your entire life. And if you're comfortable with that, then you're comfortable with that. That's fine. But at the end of the day, we are here to grow. We are here to learn more, educate ourselves about, learn more about ourselves, and about people and just the way of living. So,
Incredible. No, it's really well put. Great advice. What's next? So you're going to do the Red Bull Romaniacs, and then
yeah.
your next kind of destination plan.
So right now I'm halfway. I'm just past halfway up the west coast of Africa. So I have some obstacles ahead of me before I get to the race. I have many countries that I need to get through. I still have about 10 or 11 countries to get through. Even though I've gone up maybe a little bit more than halfway. So I still have to go through Togo, Benin, Ghana, Sierra Leone, um, Liberia, um, Mauritania, Morocco, and then into Spain and Portugal, and then once again to Europe, I can breathe. So, but right now, it's been interesting going up the west coast of Africa. I have to constantly plan my next move methodically because of the visa situation. I have to always plan for visas, and it's also not cheap as well. Like paying for all these visas, and if you get denied, and you have to reapply for it, and you have to make sure that you're not in a country longer than 30 days because then next thing you know they're going to charge you. So there's a lot of things when it comes to my next move. It's just right now I'm just focused on getting to Europe at the moment. Unfortunately, because I'm not able to really take in and explore the west coast of Africa as much as I would have liked to, because I'm just right now I have to be in Romania by July 21st.
Okay.
Yes, but I have to be in the UK by June 1st.
And you'll ship what's in the UK, and then you'll ship your bike from wherever you are in Europe to UK, obviously, right?
No, no, I'll actually. So once I get to Morocco, Spain, Portugal, um, France, and then I'll probably go to the Netherlands, and then from there I'll take the ferry to UK,
Oh, you can bring your bike.
and yeah, I have to because that's where the training is for the race.
Very
So
cool.
I have to go there to train. So it's going to be in the south of UK. So
My home country.
Yeah, I know, huh?
The chicken tikka masala is fire,
good,
man. Everything
good
else
old.
sucks. Just kidding. The food is amazing though, for sure. It's
Yeah,
really good. It's a beautiful country in its own right. The history is
yeah,
very rich. I can't stand the rain. So that's why I left.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's pretty gloomy there. Yeah, it's pretty gray. You know,
Good
that's
chicken
why.
tikka masala. Can't go wrong
The
with that.
chickens. Yeah, I mean, listen, though, go there. I'll have some amazing Indian food. So that'd be nice.
It'll be amazing.
I
Uh,
mean, honestly, like Indian food is probably my top three most favorite food. So
yeah, so you got to tell us your top 6 countries because you said Mexico was like what, 4 maybe?
yeah,
All right, break it down. Give us the top 6 and why.
up top six. Okay, I would say Mexico is up there. All right. I'm gonna put Guatemala. That's another one. I'm gonna put Namibia in Africa. I'm gonna put um, Botswana in Africa. My number one slash two favorite country is a coin flip between Colombia and Brazil.
Tell us why.
They just have a nice vibe. For instance, like you go to Cali, Colombia, and it's like salsa, and it's like the people dancing, and you got the guy who's been dancing salsa his entire life, and he's like 75 years old, but he has this 25-year-old girl, and he's just twirling her around, and he's like barely moving, but he's just like making her work, and it's just like amazing to watch. And you go to Brazil, you go to the festival, the carnivals, and you just like it's just a very vibrant kind of culture. And as you travel through South America, you start to realize the difference in the people because you get the people in the mountains that are quiet and they don't really say much, and they'll just stare at you, and then you might get some people on the coast who are like Afro Latina, and they're all darker, and usually they're a little bit more vibrant, things like that. And then you get the people in the jungles who kind of a little bit more laid back kind of vibe. They're not quiet, they're not super vibrant, but they're just like laid back, and they will talk to you and stuff. So like as you go through those different cultures within the country, it's just like you have with Colombia and Brazil, they have all of those kind of differences in the cultures, and I really do. I love that. I love that about those countries. Yeah, I mean, and now that I've been more in Africa and exploring Africa, I'm really enjoying a lot of the African countries. A lot of the southern African countries, I'm really like, like Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana. Then you meet someone the older tribes, and then they're like clicking. When they make sounds and when they talk, they're making all the clicking sounds. It's just super cool. Like you meet like the oldest tribe in the world, which is like the Sand People. They've been around for I don't know how long, but you meet them and you're just kind of like, wow, and you just see that the way they live, things like that. So again, like I said, you take a little bit from every part of the world. I mean, as far as food goes, I would say out of all the countries that I've been to, India is probably one of my top. India and Mexico. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree.
Yeah,
The
those are
food is
those are my those are my top ones. And probably possibly Ethiopia, but I've never been to Ethiopia. So
Ethiopian food is very Indian. They have
yeah,
a
no,
lot
it
of
is very
very,
similar.
very similar. I still love jerk chicken. I'm just
Yeah.
like on Jamaican jerk chicken. Best recipe ever. Yeah, good.
Oh man.
All right,
Yeah.
last question for you. If you could speak to someone who feels stuck or scared to kind of take the first step in doing something out of their comfort zone, what would you tell them?
Well, first thing, you would just kind of step back and take a deep breath, right? And you have to understand that if you don't take this step forward, and if you don't step out of your comfort zone,
you'll never know who you're going to be in life. Because taking that step forward, even if you failed, failure is a part of life, and you cannot be afraid to fail. But you just throw yourself in, and a lot of times it's a sink or swim. But a lot of times you're going to start swimming. You know, you'd be surprised. You know, you'll surprise yourself. I look at it as from the beginning of this conversation when the gentleman spoke to me. You know, he reached me. He came into the auditorium and he put on the projector and he talked about Kilimanjaro. He reached me.
Right.
That one person, that guy reached me. I mean, I might have been the only person in that entire audience that he reached, but he reached me. And he made me step out of my comfort zone and say, oh, I'm going to go and do it. You know? So don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Do not be afraid to step out of your comfort zone, and don't be afraid of failure. I mean, I know that it's something that's, again, easier said than done. But at the end of the day, once you do it, whether you fail or whether you succeed with it, you're going to be happy that you did it. At least you tried it, right? No one can take that away from you.
Right. Right. So, no, it's incredible. It's very powerful. It makes me want to just jump on a motorcycle, which I will never do again because I'm a mom and I'm terrified. But you still have that feeling where I'm like, maybe I should just like go to Brazil and see what's going on over there. Because every time Brazil or Colombia, you do a little dance. I don't know if you noticed that. You just did it when I said it.
It's a vibe, like, man. It just makes you want to move. It makes you want to move, and like it has that.
Nothing to do with the
women. No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, I'm so grateful. How can we follow you? How can we keep track of where you're going and just kind of, check in?
Yeah, so all of my social media handles are Nomad on 2 wheels, all one word. So that's Nomad on number 2 wheels. That's my Instagram. I even have a YouTube channel. I have Facebook. My Facebook is Quintin Bynum, so that's probably easier to find. I also have a GoFundMe set up as well to help out support for the race. Again, that is Nomad on 2 wheels. Yeah, and then my journey's been on Instagram. I update on Instagram a lot more. I also have a Patreon as well, which is also Nomad on 2 wheels. But I update most on my Instagram. That's probably the easiest to really like stay engaged with what I'm doing and where I am. So it's been a bit difficult to upload videos because I don't have as much Wi-Fi as I used to.
You're on the road. Wi-Fi is probably choppy. So Nomad on 2 wheels. What we'll do is we'll take all of the links on your socials. We'll put the Instagram right at the top since that's the most prevalent, along with your GoFundMe and your Patreon. Send him some money, people. He's doing all this crazy stuff. If you're just stuck in an office or on Zooms all day, you may as well support someone else living the dream if you're not. I will send you some money to support any way that I can in your race. It's so inspiring. Nomad on 2 wheels. And we'll put all of that in the show notes. And I can't thank you enough. Honestly, this is the best morning I've had in a really long time. And it's such an intellectually stimulating conversation. And I live for these moments, honestly, Quintin. Like I live for these moments because it just kind of brings you back to all the things that really matter. And the reminder and the inspiration. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. I really, truly appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Just check in with us. Come back on the show. Check in with us. We want to hear what happens once you hit UK to the Red Bull Romaniacs race. But thank you so much.
Yeah.
Be super, super safe, and really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us on Leader Voices.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. I'm Dr. Sedna Bokiria, and this is Leader Voices. This show is brought to you by the American Express Leadership Academy Alumni Network and leaderstories.org. Leader Voices is audio engineered by Robbie Ladd and produced by Creepandian team at OTVO Digital. Special thanks to Caitlin Johnson and Michael Chang. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.